Sitting on my left and going around in this direction is Chief Jeff Deering, DPW Director Rich Waldo, Peter Canine, Rick Chunfilone. I'm David Little. I believe we're expecting Mark Matheson and we're expecting Kathy McNamara. They're just running a little bit late. Emily Miller, Mark Reel, and our Executive Secretary, Laura St. John Dupuy. Also here from TGAS is Paolo Carissimi. Did I get that right?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, thank you. And our OPM, Rick Pomeroy, is here. So why don't we start off with public comment? I'm hoping that the people in the audience had the opportunity to review the plans that have been on the town website for a while. If not, you're going to have the opportunity to see the presentation, and I'll entertain comments after that, okay? So if anyone didn't have, I find the website a little difficult to navigate. I'm sure some of you might find it the same, but any public comment?
So the new plan is on the website?
The presentation that TGAS is presenting this evening, it is on the fire station website and available for viewing. But if the public would prefer, we can move on with our agenda, and I can open up public comment after everyone has had the opportunity to review the new presentation.
How would one know it's on the website?
It was not on the website.
Oh, it was not on the
Only
website.
provided to the committee, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was only provided to us. So, that being said, do you think, would it be preferable to be able to see the new presentation before we do public comment? Is everybody on board with that? Okay. That being said, we'll table that for a little bit. Item number 3 is discuss wastewater treatment options with AECom. And online is Tim Harrison, the project engineer from AECom. Tim.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me part of your meeting today. I do have a couple of slides here. Let me share my screen just real quick. All right. Everybody see that?
Yes. Yes.
Seem to be having trouble with presentation mode, but that's all
No,
right.
we can see it on the 2 side screens. It's just not appearing on the big screen in the back.
Oh, okay.
Is that something we can do, Michael? We're going to find out if we can do that. Can you hold on one sec, please?
Absolutely.
Tim, you can start.
All right, I will get going. So, yeah, knowing that there is an interest in what to do with the fire station's wastewater, Rich Waldo asked us to do just kind of a quick high-level evaluation of what it would take to provide sewer service to the fire station. So, just kind of summarizing what we looked at 2 different types of how to connect it via sewer, be it either gravity or low pressure sewer. We looked a little bit at what land rights the town currently has. We did a real rough cost estimate, give everybody a sense for the level of magnitude for these. We thought about O&M and integration with the future sewer phase. There's also been discussion recently about a local permeable reactive barrier, or PRB, so we'll talk briefly about that as well. So, as everybody is aware, the town is doing a series of sewer projects as part of the amended comprehensive wastewater management plan, the master planning work. We did identify the fire station location to be part of one of the sewer phases, but it is not projected to be constructed until about 2060, it's round numbers. But there is a plan in place to ultimately provide sewer to this area, and this blue dot is where the fire station is this red cloud, with the thought that there could be a gravity service out to the existing gravity main on Route 6A. So that's kind of the bigger context of how this area was originally envisioned to fit in. So like I said, we looked at two different alignments. What I show down here in the lower right corner is about where the new fire station is going to be located. And if we were to build a pipeline here, basically we can plan for the future and the connection to the main that's going to be out here. Then we have either a gravity main that kind of heads out this way and up through 157, 159 Route 6A as a gravity alignment, or we can deviate from that a little bit by going, staying within the school property a little further until we hit an existing easement in 165, 167. The low pressure sewer alignment is needed to use this existing alignment, just because the difference between the elevation here at this point versus here is on the order of 10 feet or so. So we just don't have the slope to get it to flow by gravity up to the top of the hill. So those are the considerations there. Kind of stole some of my own thunder there, but basically most of the alignment, either sewer approach would be within the town or public right away. And like I said, the gravity alignment does need a new sewer easement would be required at 157, 159 versus the existing easement at the top of the hill at 165, 167. If you're looking at gravity main, just for purposes of this exercise, we did assume it would be an 8-inch main. You need some manholes. And if you were talking about low pressure service, it's a much smaller pipeline that would be coming out of the pump station, but it still does require flushing and air valves, as well as its own little mini pump station with the E1 grinder unit. Lots of detail here, but ultimately I think we can just look at the, whether you're doing low pressure or gravity, we're looking at on the order of $1 to $2 million. Total cost for those sewer alternatives, just because we are building a very long pipeline to serve one property. Just a couple other funding thoughts on this. In the past, the town has sought and received SRF financing. That would be the plan moving forward with future connections. But if we're just doing this for the one property, it's definitely going to be less competitive for those dollars. If you don't have SRF financing, then you can't qualify for the Cape and Islands Trust grants that funds up to 25% of your SRF dollars. And then there would be no betterment application because this would be a town property. I'm moving quickly. I know you have a full agenda. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to jump in, and there'll be obviously time for questions later too. So thinking a little bit about what it looks like to build a gravity pipeline that is built for the future service phase. It is definitely oversized for what a single property would require. On the gravity line, that means that you're going to have trouble maintaining kind of what we would consider to be the design flows through that pipeline. So you're going to have some stagnant wastewater sitting in that line unless the operator pretty continuously comes through and starts flushing out that line. Another thing that we think about in terms of kind of the long-term asset management is all infrastructure has kind of a design life. Frequently we think about pipelines as kind of having a on the order of 50-year lifespan. So if you think about installing pipeline now that won't be fully utilized until the early 2060s, that's about 70% of its design life. So, every municipality works to kind of extend that the pipeline's life. But I think that it's something to consider in terms of whether or not it makes sense to put it in the sewer now. If you look at the smaller LPS system, like I said, you're going to need that E1 grinder pump. It's going to have power costs, and mechanical equipment like that doesn't last for 35 years typically, so we'd be looking at replacement. Also because the future kind of overall sewer service area isn't going to fit through that same size, small diameter pipeline. We would look at the low pressure system as basically a throwaway for when the larger sewer phase comes through, because you would want to connect your fire station to that larger system. In terms of the PRBs, if you aren't familiar with it, it's basically a cloud of emulsified vegetable oil. Think of it as fancy salad dressing. It basically allows the existing biological entities down there in the groundwater and in the soil to kind of get supercharged, and they actually consume the nitrogen that's in the groundwater. The design of the PRBs is pretty sensitive to what area you're trying to collect from. So it's not only the horizontal location of that system, but also the vertical dimensions of your oil cloud. So I think the idea is that we have a PRB sitting at the northern end of the Nauset Middle School parking lot here as a pilot project, and there was some thought as to whether or not that would be providing any benefit to the wastewater flow coming out of the fire station. This pilot project was specifically geared towards the school's septic system. That was kind of the source that it was being targeted. Groundwater flow does generally flow in this direction, but it's real hard to say without a lot more investigation whether or not there's any benefit gained by this pilot project for the future fire station. So just kind of wrapping it up real quickly, the gravity sewer, you're going to need a new easement. It's upwards of $2 million. There's going to be some operational considerations, and you'd end up with old infrastructure. The low pressure sewer, you're looking at over $1 million to put that in. We talked about the O&M considerations and the nature of it being kind of replaced in the future. The PRB we just spoke about, but then as we think about utilizing a septic system, could be served by the local on-site gravity system. I think it's important to recognize that the town cove as part of the Nauset Estuary has not been designated as a nitrogen sensitive area by DEP at this point. Using the existing septic system is not going to reduce the treatment plant capacity, which is a consideration currently in terms of phasing in the expansion for the treatment plant. Similar to how other properties in phases 1 and 2 have or currently are retrofitting their existing septic systems, the fire station septic could be retrofitted to be a gravity connection in the future. And the lifespan of a septic system is kind of the timeline that we're talking about here anyway. So it is the full use of that septic system's design life. So that's kind of high level thoughts on wastewater treatment and how it can be handled for the fire station. I don't know if there's any questions from the committee.
I have a quick question. Why can't we change the phase? Why does it have to be phase 14? How hard is it to change the phase that line is run down Eldridge.
It's really hard to change that phase because we're under requirements from the federal government and the state government to remove the nitrogen from Meeting House Pond. And all of our phases are geared towards that agreement that we're working under. Now, it can be modified, but to jump ahead of what we are mandated to do, to put in something that goes to a completely different water body that's not under any mandate whatsoever, would not go over well with DEP on feds.
What about running it concurrently? What about taking care of Meeting House, and then I hate to spend money when we may not have to, right? Like, spending $2 million on a septic system, and we're gonna have to put in this line, maybe it's 2060, whenever. Why would we not just put it in now so we could save $2 million and not have a septic system?
So I
We-
just want to
can we let-
clarify.
Excuse me, everybody. I'd like to let Tim answer
Okay.
Rick's question first before we get into a roundtable discussion. So Tim, can you answer Rick's question? Could the phases be altered?
I think it was Meph speaking, but, I'm sorry, not Meph, Mark speaking. But it was, I think that's exactly right. The phasing of the plan has been set up such that we're addressing the regulatory requirements first and then working our way through the Nauset Estuary once we're done with the Pleasant Bay watershed. If you were to run the two phases concurrently, it's really a financial question. Relative to the cost of the septic system, I don't think that the septic system would cost the $2 million. That is for the gravity pipe to run, to avoid, the $2 million that we were talking about is the cost to run a gravity line in lieu of a septic system. It's not in addition to.
And I think we've earmarked 200,000 in our budget for a septic system at this point. Rich?
So if I can add, just for clarity, just to build on top of what Tim said. So this is just two options to serve the fire station via the municipal sewer system. There is still a third option out there, which is a traditional septic system. Today, we did go out, we did test pits with the engineers today, but I believe the budget estimate, and Paulo, correct me if I'm wrong, but the allowance for a septic system is $152,000. So this building could be served either by a $1.8 million gravity sewer system, a $1.1 million low-pressure gravity sewer connection, or approximately $150,000 to $175,000 septic system. And I think the point of the last slide that Tim was trying to say was that there is a pilot project right now, which is the PRBs, which helps mitigate the movement of nitrogen into sensitive areas by using this vegetable oil. And I think, there is a potential that the flow of this septic system might be crossed with the PRBs, and that's something that we can study a little bit further. But there is actually three options, two for sewer, one for a traditional septic system.
Peter?
One thing that kind of precludes all this is, even if they gave them the go today, we'd be a year in engineering. It would have to be bid. It would have to go to town meeting for funding.
When we don't have the easements.
Yeah,
I
and we
mean,
don't, yeah.
it doesn't make sense to do anything but gravity, and we would have to secure easements, which we don't have.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, please, Emily.
I also just seeing where those sewer lines would go, right across the school property, and there's talk of either a regional elementary school, or I know then that's all not settled, but that just looked like a big red flag to me, putting sewer lines there when probably that land's hopefully gonna get built on at some point on the horizon.
Okay, any other comments from the board? So, Tim, given the fact that you said that the Nauset Estuary isn't a nitrogen-sensitive area, does it behoove us to look into an IA component to the proposed septic system? Or is that not necessary, given what your comments were?
I I don't think that the IA system would be a good value, because when I say it's not a, when it's not a nitrogen sensitive area, it's kind of coded language for there's no TMDL for the Nauset estuary, which means that there's no requirement for the IA systems. So it's something that the town is definitely very interested in looking into, and recognizes that there's water quality issues there, but there's no regulatory driver to hit any particular nitrogen load within
Okay.
that watershed right now.
That's helpful. I think it's something that, one more thing we can kind of cross off our list in moving toward a decision on this.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, Emily?
I know that the hazardous materials that the firefighters are using and working with are a big concern in the, construction of the station and design. Are they a concern in a septic system?
I think we would try to keep those out of the septic system.
Right, I think Rich can probably answer that.
Yeah, so a lot of the hazards will be captured by a tight system, tight tank. So there's
Okay.
basically two tight tank options at the back of the building and the front of the building that would have to be pumped out regardless of which system we went with.
So that's like laundry water and stuff like that, or?
Laundry water would be able to go in the septic system, but the, what's the right term for the cleaning of the equipment? Yeah, the decontamination zone, like that would be into the tight tank.
Got it.
Okay, any other questions before we move on? So, Tim, in the event that, when we open this up to public comment, do you mind hanging on for a few minutes in case the public has a question?
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 4, discuss vote and reorganization of Fire Station Building Committee Chair and Vice Chair positions. I'll entertain a motion to elect a chair or re-elect a chair.
I'd move that we re-elect David Little as chair of the committee.
Second?
Second.
Before we move on, is there any discussion about possibly nominating anyone else for the chair position on the committee? Okay. All those in favor of Mark Matheson's motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Can I hear a motion for electing or a new vice chair or re-electing the existing vice chair?
Move to nominate Peter Kinnean as vice chair.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Any comments? Anybody else interested in being nominated for the position? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Paolo, I think we're ready for you now. Paolo Carissimi is going to provide the presentation from TGAS. Is Ted taking part in this, or?
Not tonight.
Not tonight, okay.
Well, good evening, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everybody. So we're here. We brought a new presentation after the comments that we received on the last community meeting. We heard the comments. We know that there was some concerns, and we looked at the design, and we tried to do what we could also in looking at mostly at the aesthetic of the building, the color palette. There was like some of the comments on that. So I just wanna go inside and talk about the building, site plan, and plans quickly. The site plans, as it was mentioned at the latest presentation, it's pretty much set. So the volume on the left-hand side, this is the volume for the living quarters. On the right-hand side is the apparatus bay volume. There is an outbuilding in the back. There was some questions about the possibility to move the building back on the site. So we know that this is like the grading is varies a lot in this area. So the way we are addressing the site plan, the site layout is already considering for a lot of like soil movement, cut and fill. So just want to say that the more we push the full development in the back, the more will be the cost, especially for that kind of like soil site work for this development. And pushing back everything will still put us with an apron along Eldridge Parkway, because that's where the rigs, the fire truck needs to deploy for better response. So we'll just, if we push back, we're just making the whole development bigger. As far as the size of the building, that was determined by the program. We studied the program with the fire department. We addressed all their needs. So the square footage that we came up with is the square footage that the fire department needs.
So, excuse me just 1 second to segue
Yes.
on that a little bit, Paolo. An additional reason that we can't move the building further back is the fact that the fire, we're maintaining the use of the existing facility during the construction of this project.
Yeah.
And we physically don't have the space to
yeah.
do that. And I just wanted to make.
Yeah, no, that is correct.
make that clear
That's
to-
actually, you're right. That is kindly the main reason why we can do it. Then there is the cost reason, but again, the fire department needs to stay operational, so we can push back in the area where the current building is. So the building, as I said, the square footage, it's set by the needs of the fire department. We have 5 bays that are going to deploy for the main emergency vehicle on Eldridge Parkway, which is along this side. We kind of rotated the plan right now compared to the site plan. We have another 4 bays in the back, and then and this is red because this is the contaminated area that we were kind of mentioning before. We're talking about the waste, the water waste. So this would be the contaminated area in red. Then there is the transitional connection between the contaminated area and the green area, which is the cold zone. We call it hot zone, transitional zone, and cold zone, which is the zone where the fire department lives and operates through their department office, and is the area that is free from any possible carcinogens that they bring back from their duties. Moving up on the second floor, this is still apparatus bay because, of course, that space, it's a double height space. There is a mezzanine connecting the second floor of the living quarters with the training tower in the back. And the second floor, it's all for offices and the training for the fire department, while the first floor was mainly occupied by bunks. This is the entrance of the building, bunk rooms, day room, and fitness area for the fire department. The roof plan, it's pretty much the same. We have a flat roof on the apparatus bay. We have a gable roof on the living quarters volume. One change that you can kind of start seeing from the roof plan is this covered patio, kind of like walk around the building and on the front of the building, which will show you what it looks like. So the first option that we have, we just call the clapboard option. And when we talk about clapboard, we mostly talk about like composite material. We're not talking about natural wood clapboard, just because this is a fire department building, is a very big sized building. So having wood clapboard on this building would be like a big issue for maintenance and for durability. So we just had some images, some just reference that we were looking at in and around the area. And then this is like the first view from Eldridge Street. So As you can see, we have this like gray clapboard, which is the cladding for both volumes, the living quarters volume and the apparatus bay volume. There is some, this is the roof, the low roof, which I was mentioning when looking at the roof plan. There were some concern, besides the material, also about the shape of the roof and the way, how long the roof was coming out of the building. So we reduced that. We put like white trim around the openings. We did some columns to support that porch kind of roof canopy, whatever we want to call it. This is the entrance. Then there is a connector piece in between, which is going to be brick, like a gray tone brick, and then the same material, same kind of like elements, trim around it. We have like a cornice, since we are treating this as a low roof, so we put a cornice below the parapet that kind of like has the same profile of the heave. So we do, the heave goes down to this, the height of this volume, and it kind of reconnects with the cornice around the apparatus bay volume. Moving on the other corner of the building, so now we can see the porch along the side going towards the back. Another view. We have the same kind of like movement of the canopy here with the ridge on the side. This is the volume. Another concern was that the volume coming out for the fitness room was kind of like an independent volume that had nothing really to do with the rest. So we kind of like make it part of the entire thing by moving this roof along the side and above that fitness volume. On the apparatus bay side, we have a couple of big openings. One is hidden behind a tree here, but it's the same size as this one because this is the double volume height of the apparatus bay. Where we have the mezzanine, of course, we are using like lower window and pushed on the second floor, let's say the level of the mezzanine. The tower in the back is the same gray tone brick of the connector. That's a building where the fire department, they really get a good use of this building. They rappel off the building. They do all sort of training. So really using clapboard on the training tower would not be a wise choice of material there. So in the back of the building, this is the back of the living quarters. That connector that in the back sticks out a little bit, back of the apparatus bay volume, and the tower. The outbuilding would be the same kind of siding, clapboard siding that we have on the two main volumes. So this is the first option. We do have a second and a third option. So the second option is clapboard and gray brick. Again, some reference, fire station with both kind of like material. In this case, we kept the living quarters with a clapboard siding. We used like a little bit of a darker gray in this option. Same trim, same everything, and then with the same tone of gray, we used the same tone of gray. We used it for the apparatus bay volume, which in this option is brick. I know that there was some concern about using brick. I mean, brick has been used for fire department all over New England, all over United States. The current building that fire department has is brick, so it's a material that has his history with all fire department. In this case, again, these two volume, we're trying to match the color in this two volume. There is a cornice in this case, right, topping off the apparatus bay volume, and then there is the connector piece, the entrance, and moving also to the sides to since the siding is darker here, we try to lighten up the first floor, because it's also under this porch with the lighter stone. So that material would be a lighter stone that kind of runs from the connector volume to the front of the building through the side. Here you can see another view from the side of the apparatus bay, and that's that lighter beige kind of like tone stone that wraps around the connector in the back. In this case, we're showing the outbuilding as brick, but having done in the first option clapboard for the outbuilding, there's nothing to prevent us also to use the same kind of like there's the same kind of connection between the building in the second option. So if the preference and also the maybe when we'll be back at looking at a second round of cost estimate, we can determine that this outbuilding could be clapboard as well. It's not the outbuilding. It's not as abused as the apparatus bay, so we really like the idea. We're really pushing the idea of having bricks for the apparatus bay volume, because it needs to be a sturdy building. It needs to last long. I know clapboard has been used for fire station everywhere, and many fire stations have clapboard apparatus bay, but it doesn't last. The clapboard material doesn't last as a good brick volume, especially in an apparatus bay where they have big vehicle going in and out, all kind of activity going in there. So again, our recommendation is always towards using bricks for the apparatus bay. And then we have the third option, which is similar to the second, but we're again reintroducing the red brick that, as I said, has been using from like every fire station in New England. Almost all the fire stations in New England have something that with red brick. So we're just we're going back to the light clapboard in this option with some sort of like dark material for the connector from the front of the building, but our apparatus bay volume in this third option is red brick, and we have a limestone, some sort of like light tone cornice going around the apparatus bay volume. Same kind of view here. Again, since we're using a light clapboard material, we keep it the same material. This is the side of the brick volume. The cornice wraps around, and we have our tower. Just going back, we have the outbuilding here. As I said, for the second option, we're showing it here now. We're showing it the same material here, but nothing prevents us to maybe make this one that it's a less used and less abused building also the same clapboard that we're using on the living quarters. So these are the three options that we came up with after the meeting.
Thank you, Paolo. Before we open it up for public comment, do you have anything to add right now, Rick?
No, I think you can mix and match your different materials, the volumes are staying the same. Maybe there's a little bit more.
Could you turn the mic?
Could you use the
Could
mic?
you turn the mic around so?
Sorry.
Thanks.
As Paolo said, the volumes don't change. You can mix and match the materials and go with different color options. You may want to look at adding a little bit more detail to some of the trim systems and overhangs, but in general, it's basically picking what it's going to look like from a finishes perspective.
Okay, thank you. Public comment. Rich?
No, you go. Hello, Megan Kelly. First of all, I just want to say I appreciate that you tried to listen to most of us and change what we originally had. I do want to say, though, it seems like in the last, the two, number 2 and number 3 option, we still have all the mixed materials of the stone, the clapboard, the brick. It's still, that's defeating what we kind of originally all said, that there was too much going on. Out of the 3, personally, I think this first view, this first one is probably the most aesthetically pleasing, calming, whatever. I would like to see, I mean, I don't understand why we have the bright red doors. We have the big ugly yellow light pole. I don't understand why it can't just be a little bit more blend in. But appreciate very much that you guys did go back. You kind of heard us. You listened. The other 2 options that you have laid out, I feel like are still a little bit more like that original plan of the dark, the light, the brick. It just, those, I think you failed, personally. I don't know about everybody else. This is the most aesthetically pleasing, that blends in with kind of our neighborhood a bit more. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And that's all I can say right now, and I'm sure I'll have more. But thank you.
Nick? No, Nick's, you're next, Andrew.
Just a suggestion. There are about 25 of us.
Could you introduce yourself?
There, Nick Athanasiou, 31 Loomis Lane. There are about 25 of us in this room. Why don't you just take a straw poll on which one is preferred, just to get a sense, instead of listening to everyone coming up with.
Let's see how it goes. Maybe we'll do that. Andrew?
Andrew Meow, architect, 12 Defiance Lane. I favor the unified design, which is option 1, because I question why the two sides of one fire station should be different. I think the option 1 looks good. I further want to point out that brick, while on the surface appears more durable, in fact, there are long-term maintenance problems, as we know, like efflorescence. Clapboards maybe not as strong if you run a vehicle into it, but clapboards are easy to replace. So in that sense, there is a certain resilience to that. That's what I want to say about the appearance. However, there's an issue that we may talk about at some other time, but we have not yet dealt with. This building is supposed to meet net zero. I have not heard any presentation that shows whether the solar panels will provide all the electricity. Now, there was also talk of thermal wells, okay, or deep water wells. I haven't heard anything about that, and I have not heard whether all that put together will result in the net zero target.
So to answer that question, our charge from the select board is to create a net zero facility. And if we can do it with photovoltaics alone, we would obviously do that. We don't have the final answer to that. So we are exploring that, but our charge from the select board is to create a net zero structure, a net facility.
So will that be reviewed by this board down the road?
Yes, we're still working on detailed schematic drawings right now, and that will get delved into.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Rich?
Sorry. You killed it. I'm glad it didn't kill me. Thank you, Val.
Rich Morangel, registered architect, Orleans. I want to just say I think there's much improvement in this design, Megan. I agree with Megan. Some of the early versions are very interesting. Just going back, I don't know whether this is possible or not, but it seems that the living quarters are on the west side of the building where they should be on the east side of the building where the sunlight is. The back of the building is pretty much flush. So flipping this building seems that it would provide more daylight to the living spaces and the people that are actually working in the building while they're there. I think that would be an easy, quick flip. As far as the floor plan is concerned and the location on the property, I do feel the building materials are much improved. One additional comment would be on the front elevation that you see here is that the gable, perhaps on the front of the building, I don't know if the proper term is split, where you have a gable, one rake line comes up and it splits off and comes back down again to minimize the width of the front of the building visually. That'd be much nicer improvement. One of the other elements I see is the space, or question of Paolo, is the space above the trucks. What is in that area? Is that just to provide height for the mezzanine level?
Well, no, it's to provide also height for the truck when they get worked on. Maybe the chief can speak better about that double height space.
Okay, because that seems to be a concern about the height of whether the height in the front was based on trying to carry that through to the mezzanine level. Obviously, the mezzanine level could have its own roof system, and the front of the building could be reduced in height. So that, I mean, you can see in that photograph, someone could stand on top of that truck, and probably 2 or 3 people, or 4 people, or 5 people could stand on top of that truck and still inside the building and have adequate headroom to do whatever they're doing up there. Most of the time, I think there are bays in that truck that you're actually down in. So the other thing is that the signage on the building, whether it needs to be that large, I think the improvement on the building materials, the other consideration might be for a nickel gap or a shiplap siding as opposed to clapboard, which is kind of an antiquated finish on there. Let me just see. Same thing on the rear of the building, whether that gable could be split and help reduce, or along that whole side facade, if there could be some type of gable or something to break up the length of that building, perhaps in the center of it, to provide a little bit of breakage in that long facade. And again, if the building were flipped, this side would probably be not as visible to much of that. You can see in the back of the building we have pretty much a flush faces of buildings as far as projection into the rear yard. But the gable on the right side seems disproportionate to that larger gable, if that could be made to extend over the doorway, provide some sheltering for that doorway and increase the proportions of that building a little bit better. And the outbuilding question is, again, the height on that. What is that extra? It looks like it's double high. Whether or not the height of that building could be reduced, although chances of seeing that from the roadway are probably not going to be seen. But again, it looks almost twice as high than it needs to be. And that's about it. I think just a mixture of finishes. I do much appreciate the change from brick to a different color and a different mixing of those materials to minimize the amount of brick. But I do appreciate the efforts that they've made to make the building look prettier. I think there's still some room to go with that. And that's about it.
Thank you.
David, could I speak to the building, the
Sure,
interior
by-
height?
by all means,
Quick,
Chief.
just I think it's important. The interior apparatus bay height inside the building is important. One, for the reason that was mentioned, where the firefighters are actually on top of the trucks on a regular basis, stocking, restocking, checking equipment, so they need to be able to stand up there. And most of our apparatus has a platform along the top of the vehicle to walk on for that purpose. In the current station, it's about 3.5 feet, so you have to duck down. The other thing is that the cabs of the fire trucks are designed to tilt up. That's how we get to the motor to do maintenance. And in the current building, we can't tilt those cabs because of the interior height to do maintenance without pulling the trucks outside. So it is important for that purpose to be able to maintain the apparatus, to have that interior space.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Tom,
Dave,
I'll get back to you, Rich. Let's,
Quick follow-up on that.
we'll come to the podium, please.
Okay.
Is it necessary to have such a degree of height in there? I mean, you say about 3 feet now. If you were to have, say, another 8 feet on there, would that?
We need at least that much space.
So,
yeah.
so can you guys look at that height of that roof
And to
line?
be able to fully tilt that cab,
Make
we-
sure
we
that you
need-
have as much as space that
Yeah.
you need, but no more? I think that would greatly minimize the appearance of the front of the building.
Mr. Chairman?
Our OPM, Rick Pomeroy, go ahead.
With regards to the building elevation and the height, just keep in mind that we have a structure, a bar joist structure that's going to be supporting the roof, and we need dimensional depth for that below the roof line. Also, I believe that the design incorporates a small or low parapet meant to sort of hide the solar panels. So what you're seeing for a height on the top of that, in that elevation, is not the roof line. The roof line is below that, behind that parapet. And then we have the structural depth, then we have our mechanical systems that need to be mounted sometimes within the structure, sometimes below the structure. We also have the vehicle exhaust recovery system that gets mounted below the structure. So there's a lot of things that come into play to get us to that depth, to allow the clearance height for the firefighters to work on the engines or on the apparatus, and taking into consideration being able to lift or have the cab lift up within the station itself is very important as well.
Thank you. Tom?
Tom Finan. First of all, T-Gas, thank you for listening. You really hit the nail on the head, I think, with option one. The only thing I would add to the option one is if you need a different texture, how about not using brick and use shingles, such as the hardy board shingles that are on the police station. Many Cape Cod homes use a combination of clapboard and shingles. So anywhere you show an option one to put brick, put those shingles if you need a different texture. Regarding the durability of brick, if you back a truck into brick, replacing brick and getting exactly the right kind of brick, getting exactly the right cement look and all, very difficult. It'll look like a patch forever. Whereas the clapboard, as the previous speaker said, is very easily replaced. But anyway, I do appreciate the movement that's been made. Terrific.
Thank you. Scott?
I'll second the design corrections. Talking to Tom's.
You just introduce yourself for the record, please.
Oh, Scott Zenke, Doan Road, excuse me. I mentioned a few, the panel, I'm not sure who's the manufacturer of, but on the back of Mid-Cape. Mark, you've seen it all the time. The contractor's door is surrounded by their version of a, I don't want to call it plastic, but it's a panel shingle. 10 feet away, you can't tell if it's wood or composite. Comes in several different shades of the gray, but it looks very Cape Codish, and I think it's even called a Cape Cod shingle. Question also, and I think we've got to take a look at the height, whatever, we get 14-foot doors, Chief?
14 by 14.
Okay, and then whatever we can squeeze that down, it's gonna help. Also on the storage building. I don't even know how to work this. Storage building's double height. Again, if it's slight, but it's money. So, thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, we're taking notes. Anybody else? So, is there anyone in the audience that doesn't prefer option one from what you've seen this evening? No, there are no comments for the record. Thank you, thank you. Peggy, is there anyone online that would like to speak?
I don't see any hands raised.
Thank you. So, oh, excuse me, Megan,
That's
please.
okay.
No, please.
I do have another question, actually. So in one of these slides, I'm curious, so this is the side that I'll be staring at the most. And right now, the driveway comes up. I'm curious, is this where the driveway is? Or is this in addition to the current driveway? So is it gonna be like the driveway and all cement? I'm trying to figure out.
Could we go back to the site plan, Paolo?
So the current road coming out of the existing fire station is here. This is exactly where that road comes out right now. So what we're doing is we're just moving it to the side and then reconnecting here so that we don't have to move the existing traffic light. And doing that, we're doing that because if we're staying on this side, we have to raise all this area, and with the previous study that we did, there was the need for a retaining wall along this side. While if we move the road, excuse me, if we move the road to the left, we're able. We're studying with the civil engineer. We're studying a way to just slowly go down with the grade without needing a retaining wall, which is like a huge cost.
Well, I don't understand why we would need a retaining wall at all. So the current exit is here, correct?
In the current driveway.
So it goes straight. So right now in the new plan, we're redesigning it to come in and then out to where it currently exits? Is that what I'm
At
understanding?
this point in time, yes.
So that they can still access coming around this way?
Well, this is more for the smaller vehicles that are gonna be coming out of the rear of the fire station. The larger fire engines and ladder truck are gonna be coming out of the front and either going this way or that way.
Right. So I don't understand why you have to move. I mean, I have no problem
Well,
with the
grades.
I have no problem with the current driveway. It's, whatever.
Well, but it's lower. The entire site is now at the level, pretty much at the level of Eldridge Parkway, while the road that is currently there goes down
Right.
towards the existing fire
So
station.
here's the light, here's where it is, but now it's just gonna bump out and then in?
Yes, but at a different
Okay,
level.
and then bump out and over.
Where it bumps out, Megan, and continues towards the back, is going to be at a much higher level than where the road is now.
Oh, okay, so building up the
As you come off
road.
Eldridge Parkway now, you're going down
Yeah.
that hill.
Yeah,
So now as you come off Eldridge Parkway, you're just going to be going at the same level
Okay.
straight across. So that
Okay.
creates a large dip between the station and the middle school fields.
yeah,
So we don't have to put a retaining wall there. By moving the road over closer to the new building, we can gradually slope it Maybe even plant some big trees there, too.
Right,
So kind.
I think we could segue onto your concern about trees from the previous meeting. Obviously, we have an agreement with the Nauset Regional School District, but perhaps trees could be planted there, and I know you brought that up at your
Well,
last.
so, I mean, yes, that would be nice for the general population, but we're also taking away all these trees,
Yep, we are.
and then, so I guess jumping in onto the rest of that, my concern as far as the trees is what is the proposed lighting? Is
So,
this gonna be
with
a
res-
whole nother situation, or?
Before you go to lighting, with respect to trees on the street, we have to make sure that
Yes,
when the fire trucks pull out, they can
Yes.
see both ways.
I
But it
understand
doesn't
that.
mean that in the green areas, we can't propose something. And with respect to lighting, as we talked about,
it's a future
the previous meeting,
correct?
Orleans has a pretty comprehensive lighting bylaw. It's, what's it called, something
The
sky?
downlighting something or other.
A dark sky lighting bylaw. And I, of course, understand what you've been going through with those streetlights for however many years. I call them the Tony Pike Memorial streetlights, but for all the
Well,
years
that's
that you've
nice.
lived across the street. But we are going to do whatever we can to help this blend in the residential area that it is. We are trying.
Okay, so I'm also hoping that we can consider some of these trees on my side of the road, if possible.
That's a possibility.
That way it'll help mitigate, because no matter what the dark sky and the downlighting and all that, it's a 50,000 square foot building on the street at the end of a very dark driveway at the moment. It is going to be bright, straight up. So I don't know if that tree part is this conversation or another meeting, but I was really curious about the driveway, because I wasn't understanding that in that picture.
I think that's going to be a future meeting. We haven't really gotten into the landscaping in detail as of yet, so we'll keep you apprised.
Okay. But now I understand the driveway, which I did not. Thank you.
Yes, Scott?
Scott Zenke, Doan Road. One last thought. I know we're trying to save the existing emergency light up on Eldridge Parkway. And we're even adding more pavement to make sure we're coming out underneath it. On state bid, I know they're using them down in Yarmouth DOT. I used them in Connecticut for 5 different fire stations. They make a terrific product for about 30 grand. That you have signage on each side of the firehouse, flashing LED lights that are radio controlled from the truck. You don't have this huge ungodly arm hanging over Eldridge Parkway. And I think it just, driving up Eldridge Parkway, looking at a brand-new building we should be proud of, and we got this old aluminum arm, mast arm hanging across the thing that isn't even in front of the firehouse.
I'm in agreement with you. We've been listening to Megan at town meetings for years. She had to go to town meeting to finally get that thing turned off. It was the most annoying thing in the world.
Yeah.
And I, for one, am in agreement with you, and we will explore that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so we are, now our committee is going to discuss their preferences. And what I'd like to do, and we're going to kind of keep a tabulation here. Obviously, we've heard that from the previous meeting and then the meeting this evening that brick is not popular with the town. But that being said, I'm going to start off with the chief, and I would like to know your first and second preference for the design. And after we go through there, we'll do a tally of what the vote is and have discussion, because personally, I think it would be nice if us as a committee could agree unanimously on what we recommend to the select board moving forward. And maybe we aren't ready for the recommendation of the select board tonight, but that being said, I'd like to start off with the chief and get your first and second choice of options.
All right. I give a lot of credit to Galante and revisiting all this. I think they did a really good job of taking all the comments in. My first preference is I lean towards number 2 with the green brick, or the gray brick, excuse me, from a durability standpoint and being a fire station municipal building, but I also like number 1. So they're 2 and 1, 1 and 2.
Rich?
Pretty much in line with the chief. I do prefer the brick for the apparatus side. I do like the gray brick. I think it looks nice. Reason why I like the brick is, one, it's just a little more sturdy of a construction. This is a big building. This is a lot of area. Prefer to see this built as structurally rigid as we can. I do like the use of non-combustible materials, although I know that the exterior siding can be composed of fiber reinforced cement and things like that. So I know there's ways around it, but I for sure like the clapboard with the gray brick. My second choice is actually clapboard with red brick.
Peter?
I guess close to a ditto. I initially didn't really have a problem with the brick. I kind of like the red brick, but I think at the end of the day, to reflect the majority's opinion, I think I have to vote for the clapboard as first.
And your second choice?
The red brick.
The red brick. Okay. Rick?
I think clapboard first and gray brick second. I do want to voice my concern of the standing seam metal roof. I still stand by where I think it is a cost that we do not need to incur. They make a 50-year asphalt shingle. There's no other buildings in our town that have that much metal roof on them. I just find it unnecessary.
And I think today, we're not necessarily discussing the type of material for the roof. It's more the exterior facade, but I hear your comments.
Thank you.
My first choice is the clapboard, and my second choice is the gray brick. Mark?
My first choice is the clapboard. I think we should make note also, and Scott mentioned it, that I think anybody that wants to go down and take a look at the exterior of Mid-Cape Home Centers down on Main Street, it is a fake shingle product. It's when you're 10 feet away, it looks like shingles. It looks like weathered shingles. It's a composite material. I think one of the other places you can look at with a longer history, I think Mid-Cape redid their facade maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but Rock Harbor Village, which is 100 yards down the road from Mid-Cape, redid their exterior of all their buildings like 10 or 12 years ago with a similar composite product. And it looks like it was just put up yesterday. So that's, whether it's clapboard mixed with a shingle to break up the lines, I think that's an option we can look at. But certainly number 1 for me, and then if we do need to do something because people think the brick is more durable, then definitely gray. In the lighter, the better.
Okay. Kathy?
My first choice would be number 2, and my second choice would be number 1. I like the brick also. But I like it blending in with the rest of the building.
Emily?
Definitely number 2, the gray brick. And I think I like the red brick next. I think trying to make it look like a home, like with all the clapboard, is just gonna fail. Does not have the proportions of a home. It's huge. And that's just an awful lot of plastic to wrap a giant building in. I like the darker shade. I think it's just gonna not stand out as much in general. It looks so much more like subtle to me. So that was my thinking.
Thank you. And Mark?
First choice is number 2, second choice is number 3.
Well, that's interesting. So we have 5 in favor of number 2 and 4 in favor of number 1. And here I was hoping for a unanimous vote by the committee. That's really working out well, isn't it? So, can we talk about some of the specifics of the design before we get into this a little bit more? I, for one, do not like the red doors. I mean, our fire trucks aren't even red. I don't understand. We want, it's in a residential neighborhood. We want it to blend in. I don't see how providing these bright red doors do anything. It doesn't, it's not creating, I think what it do, it's saying, here's a fire station. Well, we don't want to say, here's the fire station, we're in a residential area. And then, and then on the, underneath the porch that goes, the wraparound porch that goes around it, we have sauna tubes that stick up out of the ground to support the posts. I don't know why we're doing that, Paolo, but I don't think it's necessary. I suspect when this goes to site plan review, Greg Baker from the fire department, who represents the fire department at site plan review on every commercial project that they brought before site plan review, he requires bollards. And I would probably expect that he's gonna be requiring bollards in a situation like this. So, and then finally, if we go with option 2, which is my second choice, I don't like the look of the dark gray with white trim. I don't mind the dark gray on the housing part of it to match the dark gray of the stone, but I don't like the look of that bright white trim with the dark gray. It reminds me too much of the fire station.
Police
The police station. So those are comments. So I'd like to start with Mark and hear if you have any specific comments about the designs that Paolo has brought before us this evening.
Well, do you think maybe we could try to address each person's comments? Because I think there's some things we should talk about before we get off of what you just mentioned.
Okay, sure. You want to comment
I
on?
think it'd be good to hear about
Okay.
why the doors are red and talk through that.
Okay, great. Who wants
Is
to
there a
start?
reason? I don't know.
I think we're trying to thread a very tough needle right now, is we want a fire station to blend into a neighborhood, but also a fire station that people know is a fire station, so when they need help, they know it's there. And that's the dilemma that I think, at least I'm having, is we're trying to balance those two things. And to me, that's the thing. I think red doors are traditionally associated with fire stations, and that's, I think, probably where that element came from, if I'm not...
Big red cross right here in the front of the building.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that that's the things that I'm trying to provide my thoughts, that I think we're trying to do here. And I think, yes, there's a Maltese cross on the front of the building. We have to look at the lettering or the signage on the front of the building. But I think we can look at the colors of the doors. I think in the sort of the connector section, there's a darker color, perhaps black.
Yep.
And those are all things that, am I absolutely sold on red doors? No, that was the rendering that came through, but I think there's history there that's tied to being fire stations, and that's where that comes from.
Oh. Does anybody have questions in the audience related to the sewer connection that we discussed earlier in the evening? Tom?
Tom Finan, it's hard to argue a few $100,000 to 1.6 million, but has the cost for the septic system that has been proposed Does this include the accommodation for a community center, for instance, which is all part of the campus plan? So that was my only comment, as you make the comparison.
Thank you. Rich? No, I know.
Rich Moore and Jugland. Dave, just a quick clarification. This was all in response to the question of septic system. Why a septic system and not town sewer? Is that correct? Okay. So basically, to do the septic is obviously less expensive. To do the gravity feed or the other one where you don't have other flows coming into it, that seemed like a logical reason not to do that. You don't have the flow to push that liquid through there, and because those other systems aren't online right along Eldridge, they wouldn't be online at that point. So there wouldn't that seems logical. So that was just a clarification. It's just to address that question.
Yes.
Okay.
So, Tim, sorry to keep you waiting, but I guess go ahead and sign off. We're all set on the septic at this point. Thank you for your presentation.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.
Rich, what do you think about the red doors?
I kind of agree with the chief. I mean, I think it's traditional for a fire station. And again, I'm not an architect. I don't know the history behind it. But, you know, when I think of a fire station, I do think of brick and red doors. I do think Chief said it very well, is the difficulty here of threading this needle, of trying to blend in the neighborhood, but also be recognized for what the purpose of this building is. So I think if it really bothered people, the red doors, I think that's something that we could accommodate and change. I think that's something that, you know, as we get down into the nitty-gritty of this project, if we had to change the colors, we could. But for me, I like the red doors.
I think now is the time to.
Well, I think some of your comments were on the rendering, and, you know, I could probably point out some of the rendering areas that could use some work. Right now, we have a generator.
You're going to have your time to speak. I'm just going around about, so you're with the chief on the red doors. You're on the fence.
If we're talking about the red doors only, yes, I'm with Chief of Red Doors.
Peter.
I'm with the chief. I don't see a problem. I think the use of the red is and some color is a nice effect here. What the alternative would be to what? Paint them brown, and then we've got giant holes, visual holes in the building. This is you know, it's a large building. It's not a residential building, and it is what it is. I really don't have a problem with the red doors, and I would say
You don't
take
live
a look
across
at them.
the street, though.
Take a look at them. No, I don't. No, I don't. That's true.
Rick,
I agree with you.
agree with me.
Yeah, I don't think the red is necessary, and I think it provides more of an eyesore than it's worth.
I've spoken.
Mark, your mic.
Okay, Tom, I got you. I was just talking to him for a minute. I think we should not get hung up on each little thing. I understand what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, about, you know, let's get this resolved. We're at this point, red doors, not red doors, whatever. I'm looking at this in terms of when we start to finalize things, whether we paint the doors red or black or something in between is an easy fix one way or the other. But I think what we should look at is how some of these things can subtly fit together. If we're talking about minimizing the lighting, and if we're talking about putting in trees wherever we can to help make this thing blend in, look nicer, or whatever. Yes, it's a huge building, it's a fire station, but I think when we look at lots of little things to go into what the overall effect is, one little thing influences another. So, yeah, paint the doors black instead of red, but we want people to know it's a fire station, so we're gonna put a big, huge, well-lit sign out in front that says Orleans Fire Station. That's not a trade-off I think we should make. I think, we need to look at subtle lighting. If it means subtle lighting, the complement to that would be red doors, so be it. I think, rather than get hung up on little details like this right now, in terms of a color, that needs to be taken in overall context.
Then we bring it back to the public in the future.
I don't think we need to go to the public
I do.
necessarily
I do
to pick
think
the
we need
color
to-
of the doors.
I think this is about a fire station going in a residential area, and everything that we've heard from the community, last meeting and this meeting, wants it to blend in. And I don't see this blending in. You go down Eldridge Parkway now, you can't see the fire station at all, but boy, you sure as hell know it's there when you see that flashing sign. The first one says signal ahead. Then you see the next sign, and that's, you know the fire station's there, and you can't even see it. It's out in the woods.
Right, and I think we're talking about maybe minimizing that signage and minimizing those flashing lights and minimizing those kinds of things. And
Well,
so it all works
are we-
together as
are we,
to
though?
how we define the fire station, and so.
Okay, well, I'm fine if we don't want to discuss things like that now, but I think with a project like this, it needs to be brought back to the public so they can see color schemes.
And I think one of the.
And the landscape plan.
One of the criticisms that I know came after the police station was up and built was that it was a much darker gray than people thought it was going to be. And there was a lot of concern about that. So yes, I think you're right. Before, the final color palette is chosen to finish this building, then it comes back to the public, it comes back for review, and decisions are made. But I think what we need to do right now is say, okay, we're going with this modified design with the farmer's porch, the roof lines that have been altered from the original building. We can decide, do we want to go with the composite clapboard shingles on most of the building, or with, the gray brick on the equipment area? That thing we can do now. We can, discern the exact colors at a future time, but I think, we want to get this, this is the design, this is what we're gonna do, brick, composites, let the architects go, get the design going and move this thing along, rather than,
Okay, well, you're the one that said to me, let's discuss the red doors, so let's just finish going around. So that's why, yeah, you did, you asked me to go down on it, so let's keep going
That
around.
was the other Mark that did that.
Kathy?
I don't hate the red doors. I think there's lots of different shades of red, and I think you can add a gray element to a red to make it blend in a little bit more, but it is a fire station, and to Mark's point, to keep the lights minimum but keep the red up, I think that's a good trade-off. I don't like that the front door's not centered on that building, though. Complaint, but I don't feel like we're there yet.
Emily?
I also don't hate the red doors, but I don't love them either, so I don't think I feel strongly about it.
And Mark?
I don't have a strong opinion. My focus is how do we get to what the chair would like with a unanimous
Okay.
decision. So
I hear you.
some give and take here, we can move people along, then I'd be supportive of a different color door if that's what gets some folks over.
So we have 5 that would like to see option number 2 and 4 that would like to see option number 1. Is anyone willing to move one way or the other?
I can move to option number 2, as long as, I think we make sure that the colors, I think one of the things that people talked about with option 1 was the lighter gray color, as opposed to the dark gray color that we have in option 2. So I think if we're looking at, retain the lighter gray color and go with a, brick, but a lighter gray brick for number 2, I can go with the number 2 with those lighter colors, brick and wood.
This is a huge building, and the lighter you make a color, I mean, the more it catches your eye. So I think we should take that into consideration. The lighter something is, the brighter it looks, the bigger it looks.
That's why, and I could probably go with option 2 as well, but that's why I brought up, if you look at the darker gray,
Right, the trim.
the darker gray clapboard to match you have white trim.
Maybe it could have
Talk about
gray
something
trim.
jumping out at you,
Right,
that
maybe
white
it could have
trim.
gray trim, like a,
Right.
lighter
So-
shade of that gray trim. That
So
would.
that being said, I could probably move my vote. Just a minute, Megan, I just want to talk to the other number ones. Rick, are you, number 2 is your second choice. Would you be willing to? I don't know how to do this. I'm.
And I mean, I like one first. It's just, you know,
I do too.
what does it matter?
But do we want to leave it up to the select board?
Yeah, sure.
Put them on the spot?
Why not?
Well, that's an interesting thought.
I mean, we have our
Maybe
two
rather-
options.
Maybe
and
than,
let them
rather
figure
than
it out.
putting the onus on us, we make these recommendations to the select board and we have them choose. I think that takes a little pressure off of us. That's a very good point.
Okay.
And what about Rick's comments? Having a split vote and making that recommendation to the select board. They have it on the agenda as their 10th agenda item on Wednesday. So they're expecting us to do it tonight. Quite frankly, I never like being rushed.
Yeah.
And we've been rushed through this whole process from day one. Megan, you wanted to say something?
My only comment is, there's no denying that is a fire department. Like, nobody's gonna be driving down the road like, oh, what is that? I can't
Agreed.
figure it out. It's obvious. It's gonna be a massive building with Orleans Fire Department on it. So for those of us who are saying, oh, we need the red, or, I don't even care what color the doors are at this point, you'd be a fool to not understand that is the fire department.
Agreed.
Simple. I mean, that's what I just had to say on that. There's no denying what that building is.
Thank you for your comments. Andrew?
Andrew Miao. As I said in my original comments, I like a unified design. If the feeling of the committee was to go with option 2, I would suggest to go with a gray trim and also the section that's between the two buildings to be of the same brick color. So they
That's a-
all work as a unified design.
I think that's a very good point. I think that's the one public comment we heard from everyone, that they'd like it to be unified.
I like the stone. I like the different, it looks a little more modern and interesting. It's not just like a giant, these are personal tastes, though. I'm not really sure like how we're supposed to decide this.
Right, so maybe, I think, what
Makes it less monochromatic.
so I'm gonna start with Mark. Are you okay with sending a split vote to the select board? I was hoping we wouldn't do that, but quite frankly, they're the ones that are pushing this to go. Why don't we put the onus on them?
Or we take a vote on a motion.
Okay? I'd entertain a motion.
I move to send a recommendation of number 2 to the select board.
Second.
Okay. Comments? It's kind of a sneaky motion since we had.
No,
It doesn't, no, it doesn't, Megan. It's kind of a sneaky motion.
How this is gonna happen.
No, I agree. I agree. It's a sneaky motion. We had 5 in
Mr.
favor
Chair,
of 2.
Mr. Chair, you asked me what I thought we should do. And I
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
gave you my suggestion, you said I'd accept the motion.
Yeah, that's fine. And we're bound to this, in any discussion on his motion.
It doesn't have to be unanimous. You can vote no if you don't want 2 to go, right? We don't have to have a
Correct.
unanimous vote.
No.
Okay, that's.
Yeah, I guess I'm just not clear on how we're supposed to decide this. So I don't think any of us are.
None of us are.
Yeah.
We're in a very awkward position.
It's a difficult task that we have been tasked with by the select board.
Gail, would you like to say something?
I just think, Gail Breer, Pond Road, I just think it's very interesting that when you asked the audience, if anyone had a different opinion than option one, no one raised their hand, all right? So I think it's a difficult decision, but you asked.
And it's also, and I'm probably going to be chastised for this, it's also, never mind, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to be smart and shut my mouth for once.
What I would add, Mr. Chair, is that the colors, as we're talking about them, the most important decision that we can make and that the select board can make for direction to move the project forward is the finishes and how that plays into cost estimating and design development. So the color piece is not as critical as it is to move this process along in terms of what the finishes are, which I confirmed with T-Gas.
Any other comments from the committee? Okay, so those in favor of Mark's motion, please say aye, or please,
Can I just
please,
ask-
Emily?
Can you just say, like, who's in favor of which design, and then we can just send that to the select board?
No, he's saying he doesn't want it, that's not what his motion was.
I made the motion to send option two.
He made the motion to send option two to the select board, and
I thought it was a
based
motion
on-
to vote on the design.
And I'm gonna have to vote against it based on all the people that came to the meeting, last meeting, which you didn't attend, I hope you watched,
Of course I did.
and all the people that are at this meeting this evening, I can't honestly vote for his motion.
Okay, I'm sorry, and I misunderstood. What I was seconding was a motion to take a vote on the design, not to.
Kathy, I thought Kathy seconded that. It was you.
So can I withdraw my second?
Yes, you can.
Okay, unseconded. So, and I would like to vote on the design. Can I put a motion forward to vote on the design? And then send that to the select?
You want a poll vote?
I want a poll vote on the design and send that to the select board, and they can watch the meeting and see what everyone in the audience said, and they can decide.
Okay, do I have a second?
Mark has to withdraw his motion first for number 2.
Thank you.
So,
He doesn't have a second, it's automatically withdrawn, isn't it?
I guess, I'm just trying to understand how we're voting on, we're just doing a poll vote that we will then send to the select board as who voted it for each.
Just, I mean, everybody just said what they wanted there. Do we need to do a poll vote? I mean, it's on the records.
I have-
Everybody out there said,
I would have to say that.
Like, this isn't,
yeah,
Right,
okay.
I would say that we have listened to public comment and we've responded to that. We've been in this room for every meeting since the beginning of this project. And so, as the chief has mentioned, we are weaving a needle. We're trying to balance the functionality of the fire rescue station with the comments that we've heard from the public. And so, yes, there are folks in the public audience that have opinions about this project, but there is 6,500 others that live in this community that aren't here to talk about it. So we've been put together by the select board to make decisions, to provide recommendations to the select board about direction. So while we absolutely appreciate comments, we've clearly gathered those comments, we've made some adjustments, and our job is to move this project forward. So that's what I'd just like to say about this.
Since you're talking about the community, I will say that 4 of the members of the board that live in the community voted for number 1, and the other 2 members of the board that live in the community voted for number 2. If we're talking about community and how that plays out.
So the other, sorry, there are non-community members?
Just a minute, Rich. That was just an offside comment on my part. If you want to get into the weeds, that is. Rich?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you're being rather hasty with any kind of vote for plans 1 or 2. In the weeks that have gone by since we've seen the first elevations, there's been great improvement, no doubt, in the appearance of the building. I think you're rushing This is an extremely expensive project. There are a lot of areas that leave room for improvement architecturally. Great strides have been made.
We hear your point. I think
But
what we're trying to do, Rich, is send an option to the select board, and as you've heard from many of the members here, we have the opportunity to look at roof pitches. We have the opportunity to look at color schemes. We have the opportunity to look at those things, and we will do so down the line. But tonight, right now, we have a motion on the table to poll the board to let the select board know their preferred option at their next meeting on Wednesday, at which time you can go to the Wednesday meeting of the select board. It's item number 10 on their agenda.
Mr. Chair, if I could- so
Well, we have a motion on the table.
we do, it's not seconded, so I can second it for purpose of discussion. And then I think I would like to, propose a solution to this situation we find ourselves in tonight, if you would allow that. So I will second the motion.
Okay, discussion, Mark.
So, what I think we can do here is go around once more and have everyone reaffirm their first place choice and their first place choice only. And we forward to the select board the findings that this committee, as of right now, voted 4 in favor of option 1, 5 in favor of option 2, and all of the audience members that were present voted in favor of option 1. We send that message to the select board, and then the select board can determine whether they want to have a further refinement of the renderings before they ask us to make a final decision, or before the select board itself makes a final decision on what it's going to be. It gives the public another opportunity to speak about their preferences at that meeting on Wednesday, and the select board can then, as I said, make the determination as to whether they want to go forward and make a choice themselves on Wednesday night, or whether they want us to have, one more shot at refinements and then, give us a date certain when they need a decision one way or the other, or the select board will make a decision one way or the other.
That makes sense to me, Peter.
We've spent an awful lot of time talking about colors, and I think there are some larger issues here that have not been resolved. Not the least of which is, what are our options if we don't meet the $55 million budget?
We shrink the apparatus bay a little bit. That's one option.
Okay.
So I've looked at this in detail, and one of them is shrinking the apparatus bay a little bit and shrinking the other side a little bit.
And revisit.
It can be done.
We can revisit the storage building in the back, but I think all of these are major things that I think.
Those are all things that are on the table as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and they're still on the table, and I think the select board need to know about that.
Well, I think the board understands that, and I think the next step is to finalize something here tonight or Wednesday night at the select board, so that the architects can hone the numbers down more precisely. Because right now, they're sitting there saying, oh, do we do it in brick? Do we do it in wood? Do we do it in metal? What's it gonna, whatever. We need to give them as much specific information as we possibly can, so that they can give us back the solid numbers. So that's why.
No question about that.
Yeah, that's-
No question about that.
so this is the
We need
first
we need to know what the bottom line here is, which we do not know, and won't know for quite some time.
So the first step is for us, for this, the select board tonight.
Any other comments from the committee?
I'm fine with that approach. I mean, the only thing I was gonna offer a suggestion is, it sounds like we're all in agreement on the living quarters as being clapboard. And maybe we could take a vote on just the living quarters, clapboard, and then do the straw vote on what the apparatus bay looked like. But
No.
it would accomplish the same thing with the current
We have
motion.
three options presented to us. I don't want to confuse this and try and break apart option 2 and 3 to mess this up. I am dead set against that.
So we got a motion and a second in place.
Mark?
So you're talking, you seconded my motion.
No.
No.
You seconded Emily's motion.
So can we repeat that motion so it's clear on what we're actually voting for?
A straw poll.
So the
Straw
vote,
poll
so the
and
motion,
just report that to the
Okay.
select board
as, okay.
as a
Yep.
straw poll with all the other information that was discussed at this meeting.
Any other discussion? Okay, I'm going to start with Mark and go around the table.
Just your
Oh.
first place vote.
Your first place vote only. Mark?
Number 2.
Emily?
Number 2.
Kathy?
2.
Mark?
1.
I'm 1. Rick?
1.
Peter?
1.
Rich?
2.
Chief? Okay, they're as it was before. 5 for number 2, 4 for number 1. So, can I have a motion to recommend to the select board our choice of options for their select board hearing this coming Wednesday?
So moved.
Second. Do I have a second?
Okay, so this is just to send that, what we just voted on?
Yes.
I thought that was part of it. Okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, passes unanimously. I'm sorry, everybody, this is not an easy thing to do, and I'm doing the best I can tell you that much. Yes, Tom?
Add to the motion to include the preference of the audience.
That was part of my original motion, Tom.
Okay, could I amend the motion
That was
to?
part of my
Said
original
it in my
motion.
motion.
Okay, okay.
I missed that.
Okay, Tom, thank you. Okay.
I have a
We-
quick Mark Select Board question.
The answer's no. What's the question?
At the select board meeting, I think if I remember correctly, public comment is usually in the beginning for a very small allotted time. Are you going to allow comment towards number 10?
So
that we can-
normally, normally what happens on an issue like this when it comes before the board is the chair will allow for the public comment to occur during the discussion of that agenda item, number 10.
Okay.
So people don't have to be there at the beginning of the meeting to say something. They can come and speak to that issue, number 10.
So you're going to have to take another night off from work, Megan.
Oh, I'm aware. I'm gonna bill the town. No, no problem.
Okay, moving on. Oh, I'm sorry, Paulo. The man of the hour.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to the committee. Great work. No, it's a really hard decision. Thank you for all the feedback that we received for the community. Again, hard decision, very hard decision. And I just want to reiterate the fact that colors, I mean, we can address colors. I mean, for us, we know that we're putting aluminum folding doors in the front. The color is not an issue. We just need to understand a little bit what kind of like materials, roof line, because we're stepping into design development phase, so we're starting to look at details, wall section, and all sort of like details all around the envelope of the building. So having this information finalized is crucial for us to keep moving. And as we all know, schedule is important, not just because we want to get this done, which we want to, but also because the more time we use, we get into it, and the cost, we know that the cost just keep escalating, even though there's slowing down a little bit, but there is always like an escalation to schedule that moves forward. So thank you all, and hopefully on Wednesday we can make some good decision that allow us to dive deep into the design development phase. Thank you.
Thank you, Paulo. Scott?
Scott Zenke, Doan Road. Why aren't we passing this through the Architectural Review Board? It's a commercial building. Yes, it's in a residential space, but it's a commercial building. As far as colors, I don't pick out my own clothes, I'm sorry, but I couldn't tell you grays from, dark grays from light grays. I will tell you this, unless you get pre-bagged mortar, you can have one hell of a mess with different shades of mortar
I
throughout a
believe
dark
it
building.
does have to go I believe it still has to go before the ARC. It still has to go to site plan review. It still has to go to the zoning board of appeals. So.
So how are we getting to a
You
decision?
don't have a
by-
design to bring in front of the architectural review board yet. Until we settle on a design, it doesn't go to them.
Okay, but we're going to the select board with a potential design
That's what we've been advised to do.
and potential color.
Schematic design.
Okay, but it could all get changed going to the architectural review board.
It
You
could.
know, you got a couple of members of the architectural review board sitting here that have already weighed in on, what they see and what they like, or, the improvements that have been made and whatnot, and so it's the process.
It is, but we're sort of convoluting
I
the
know,
process.
Scott, we're going at a breakneck speed.
No, and I appreciate everything you're doing, but we've got a $55 million project here.
And we keep being told the more we delay, the more it's gonna cost. And I'm not so sure that I agree with that. but
Those dates are next February. So
it's.
we got to get it right because you don't get a second chance.
We're doing what we've been told.
No, I thank you for what you're doing.
Okay, moving on to item number 7. Rick, can you help us out a little bit in the discussion of AI-ready infrastructure as requested by an Orleans resident? And this is kind of over my head, and I assume it's over a few people's head on this board.
It's over most head. There's a lot here. This information has been submitted to the design electrical engineer. They've reviewed it. They have indicated that this seems excessive, but they will look at it during the design development phase. They've indicated that, additional conduit into the building is inexpensive. They agree. But they want to make sure that we just don't go overboard. So they are reviewing it. There's a lot to these comments, and a lot of which is speculative. So it's really undetermined whether or not it would be necessary or not. So the engineers are looking at it. They will address it during the design development phase. And we'll be back in front of you showing you the conduit or spare conduits that have been added to the building for the committee's review. And if this person wants to sit down with us, we can do that.
I think that's a good enough answer for me. Does anybody
I
have
don't-
questions?
I don't have much more I can.
That's
give you.
fine.
I've gone through this, and, there's a lot of information here where exactly it came from and how it was generated. I'm not exactly sure, and whether or not, and I'm not sure that the engineers are aware of where it came from and how it was generated. So what they're going to try to do is put their best foot forward and design you an infrastructure that has some
Redundancy.
some continuity to it and planning for the future, and we'll take a look at it.
Thank you.
Ask Claude how to do it.
Okay. Future agenda items. Does anybody have, do we want to discuss the soil logs and things like that, or is that not necessary at this point?
We've had several soils management meetings with the civil engineer, geotech.
No, I'm thinking about the septic. I
Oh,
was
I'm
thinking
sorry.
Rich was mentioning we just did some for the septic system, and that has an impact on the price, obviously. And
I would say let the test results come in. If the architect says something worthy of bringing forward, then we do.
Okay. Anything else, any future agenda items that anybody might have that we should add to the,
We'll see what happens Wednesday night.
okay,
That might generate a couple of items.
okay. Approval of the meeting minutes for June 15, 2026. I was absent, so I am abstaining, but do I have a motion to approve or amend the minutes of June 15, 2026?
So moved.
I'll move. Approval?
Second?
Been moved and seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. David Little abstains. Okay, our next meeting date. Paolo and Rick, a lot of this hinges on what happens Wednesday at the Select Board. Rick, when are you thinking would be the next? Well, it's getting to be closer and closer into your court, isn't it?
Yeah, why don't we go for a month from today? Assuming that we get some direction on Wednesday, then at least the team can work and get some more meaningful product. We're stepping into a lot of different components over the next 2 months as far as equipment and, all of the different components that go into the building. So there's a lot of work to be done.
I think that's
If we
Labor
can-
Day.
No, well, we could either do August 31st or September 14th. Labor Day is
The 31st.
Can we do the 31st? That's almost a month away.
Okay.
That's 5 weeks.
Today's the 3rd.
Oh, that's-
Can I have a motion to schedule our next meeting for August 31st?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank-